Hello and welcome. Today we're going to be taking a look at the new Cle de Peau holiday collection. You can see the packaging is incredible. So we're going to delve into this in just a second. And we're also going to be looking at the new eye brushes from Sonia G. And these were gifted to me. So thank you so much to Sonia G and Beautylish for these. Let's start off with the Cle de Peau. We're actually going to start off with the highlighter here. So this is the packaging for our highlighter, which is our luminizing face enhancer in shade 110. What I want to bring your attention to with this packaging, just like the other ones, we do have this prismatic top, but you can see even with that, it kind of gets a little bit of a 3D appearance. So we have kind of our train of dreams right here. You've got some peacock feathers and flowers and so forth. This is stunning. So here's our actual peacock sitting like in a garden with our train of dreams going through. And just so you know, this packaging for the luminizer is refillable. So you can actually punch this one out and put in your favorite shade if this is or when you're ready to reuse it. So this is shade 110. You'll see an up close of this in just a minute with the overspray on it. This is already with the overspray removed. So there is a shimmery overspray on all highlighters from Cle de Peau. But this is what it's going to look like without it. So you can see it's going to be like a peachy ivory. So it's ivory with a touch of peach. And I think it's a beautiful shimmery shade. I really like this. It's neutral. We've got a little bit of warmth from the peach, but we have coolness from the ivory. So it's really well balanced. And you can see we get this really nice shimmer without like glittery particles or anything. And the glitter is in the overspray. So if you're testing this out and you're seeing glitter, remove the overspray because you will just see this beautiful shimmer. And it's incredibly finely milled. You don't feel any texture. It basically melts into the skin. Let's take a look at this on the skin. Now, all the items in this collection are limited edition. The highlighter is, again, it's shade 110 Radiant Peafowl. And this is a new shade. We have 10 grams of product. It's made in Japan and we have a 2-year shelf life. It does come with a little brush here as well. According to Cle de Peau, it's a multi-dimensional, silky smooth highlighting powder infused with exquisite opal powder, now available in the limited edition shade Radiant Peafowl as part of the holiday exclusive Dreams Express collection. It illuminates your complexion and defines contours using light empowering technology for a radiant, eye-catching look at every angle. So in the demo here, I first wanted to show you what the highlighter looked like on its own, and I used the CH1 brush from Fude Bobo, and so this is the Bobo Chikuhodo CH1, and I used kind of the blush side of this, the larger portion, to really show you a large swath of that sheen. And then I used the back of the brush, the smaller portion, to show you what it looks like in a smaller area, which is how I applied it for today's look, which is paired with the blush from Cle de Peau in 102. Cle de Peau highlighters are some of my very favorite powder highlighters. I love the sheen and the shimmer you get with these. I love the fact that they're not glittery. It's incredibly finely milled. So these aren't glittery in the sense that you're not seeing like large chunks of glitter or anything like that. They're very, very finely milled shimmer. Shimmer is, of course, always some sort of glitter particle, but this is so finely milled, you're not seeing pieces of it. So just something to note there. And I just think this is a really beautiful shade that's going to suit a lot of complexions because, they've got a nice balance of coolness and warmth in here. And it's just a really beautiful shade. Let's take a look at a few comparisons. So this here's 110 Radiant Peafowl. This is one of the permanent shades in 201, Twilight's Glow. So I wanted to see, this is kind of the closest permanent shade that I have. We're just going to go ahead and put this vertically. You can see that this is going to be cooler. It's more pink. It's a really pretty shade as well. This is one of my favorites from Cle de Peau. And then I want to take a look at some of the previous holiday items. So again, this is this year's. And this is 106 Dawn of Destiny. So this one came out with the mermaid packaging here. And there were 2 highlighters then. This was the warmer shade of the 2. You can see this one has a little bit of teal and peach to it, but you get a little bit of coolness from that green. It's going to be cooler in tone than the new shade. The other one from that collection was 11 Radiant Aura, which is decidedly cooler in tone, a little bit more blue. And And then new holiday, this one here is 107. So this came out a couple of years ago. It was in this packaging here. And this is the closest one that I have. I'm actually going to put this one side by side with it. So this here is the 107, and this here is this year's 110. You can see the difference. 110 is going to be a bit peachier. It's more neutral. 107 has more of that whiter base. Then the last one I wanted to look at, again, current. This is 104 Radiant Superstar. This came out several years ago. This was actually my favorite that holiday season. This is also going to be a warmer toned one. And this, I guess this is probably a little bit closer even than the 107. You can see this one's going to have a little bit more of an ivory golden hue versus peach, but they actually are fairly close. So if you have 104, this is my actual closest shade. Now I have to say, I was surprised that this year we only have one luminizer. Typically we have two different ones. There's a cooler one and a warmer one. But I'm very happy with the one that they ended up selecting and how it kind of covers both spectrums. And I think it's a really beautiful shade. I really like this. I know I'm going to be using this a ton, not just for the holiday season, but all year. It's such a great everyday shade. Let's go ahead and take a look at the eyeshadows. So here's the eyeshadow palette, and I wanted to bring your attention to how we kind of have this like clear top. Our scene is kind of set back, and then the Train of Dreams is actually kind of right on top. So it's on the top layer. So it looks like, you know, it's more of a 3D scene. And you can see when I turn this, we have some golden accents in different spots, like the antlers of the deer and, you know, a piece of the tiger and so forth. So I think this is absolutely beautiful packaging. Just like the luminizer, this is going to be refillable. For Cle de Peau eyeshadows, you just kind of pop this out and you can put in whatever you like. So we do have utensils. We'll take a close-up look at this in a minute. I tried really hard not to ruin the beautiful embossing and the gold foil detail on here. So I'm going to try to keep that true, but you'll see it unmarked in just a minute. So our first shade here is going to be this really pretty lavender. It's a small swatch because, again, I'm just trying to stay out of the gold embossing. So I'll make it a little thicker. So this is our purple. It's a neutral purple. And then next to that, we have this soft taupe shade here. It's more of a browner taupe. We do have a little bit of a golden hue to this. Then this shade here, I wasn't sure if this was going to be our primer shade or not because it's a little bit more matte than our usual primers, but it is still going to be our primer. It is going to be a soft warm pink. The pink itself is pretty neutral, but then we have this golden shimmer in here, which makes the overall effect warm. And this is a primer shade, so it's more of a creamy matte kind of product, but it's very thin, you know, and you're not gonna pick up a ton of it. You just need a little bit on your eyes. This last shade is this beautiful, rich mahogany brown. I mean, look at this. So we have kind of this cool cocoa brown base with a touch of gray, and then we have this red mahogany hue running throughout. So this is our palette here. Let's take a look at these on the eyes. So for the eye swatches, I am using the new Sonia G brush in T7. And then for the eye demo, I'm using all three of the new brushes, T7, T8, and T9. So you'll be able to see how those brushes perform while we're looking at these demos. As for this particular palette, it is number 504. Again, it is limited edition. We have 6 grams of product, a 2-year shelf life, and it's made in Japan. The palette is called Pastel Tea Safari, and it's described as a giftable, highly versatile eyeshadow palette that highlights eyes for a naturally radiant finish. As part of the Dreams Express collection, this holiday exclusive Pastel Tea Safari eyeshadow palette features 4 limited edition shades: Pink Sparkle, Lavender Purple, Golden Beige, and Walnut Brown, all offering elegant hues that adorn your eyelids while caring for delicate skin. It is a hybrid of makeup and skincare that highlights and defines eyes with elegant color for a naturally radiant finish. enhances natural eye contours with light reflecting technology, primes eyes for smoothness and moisture that lasts 8 hours, delivers fresh, long-lasting color and texture for up to 12 hours. So as I mentioned, our pink primer shade there in the bottom left of the palette, that is the primer here. It is a little drier, a little less creamy than some of the primers I have in the permanent ones. It's a little bit more matte in texture. And I think it's a nice shade. You're not going to see a ton of this color here, but it does make a nice base, nice shimmer. This is something that also works well to highlight the brow bone. Overall though, for me, the primer shade, you know, it's there, it's fine. But for me, the stars, they're the other 3 shades. So this purple shade is like a lavender blue iris shade, and we do have some shimmer in here. So there is going to be a little bit of, it's almost like an opalescent and lavender sparkle in there. It's minimal, there's not a ton of it, but there is going to be a little bit of shimmer in that shade. The beige brown, this taupey shade, this is going to be more brown than a true taupe because we don't really have the gray too much in here, but this is going to be a nice satin shade. It's a nice neutral brown. We do have a tiny bit of warmth in this, but it's still neutral. As I mentioned, again, the primer shade is a neutral pink, but we've got golden shimmer in here and some pink shimmer, and the overall effect is going to be warm. And then our deep brown here, I mean, this shade, surprisingly, it might be my favorite shade in this palette, which kind of surprised me. I thought for sure it'd be the purple or the lighter brown. But in this case, you know, we have this really nice, cool, rich brown with the warmth of like this reddish mahogany hue throughout it. And it just kind of marries everything together. The texture of these powders, you know, these are going to be more of a silky powder texture. We have a little bit of a creaminess to it, but they're going to be more powdery than like a cream to powder type of shadow. They're very smooth and easy to use. They blend out well. You can layer these, build these up very nicely. So I personally really like the Cle de Peau shadows. The formulas themselves, they do feel a bit soothing on my eyes, especially for me when I've had days of like eye swatching and so forth. Cle de Peau shadows are one of my go-tos because they do actually, you know, they're soothing. They're not going to heal my eyes, but they're also not hurting them when I apply them. So I personally love their formulas, and this limited edition palette is on par with all of their others. So I think it's a really great palette. I love the packaging here. I think we've got some really great choices. Now, as you're looking at the eye demos here, you can see the new Sonia G Traditions brushes. So these are adding on to our line. We've got the Traditions T7, which is what I'm using for the eye swatches, but it's also kind of my lay down shader style brush that I used during the demo. These have the Kakishibu dyed SUQQU goat bristles, so they're going to be goat hair, but the dye makes them a little bit softer, also makes it a little bit more resilient. We also have the Kiyaki wood handles, which, you know, personally I think they're very chic. We've got the matte black ferrules with them. I think the brushes are absolutely beautiful. As for the T7 itself, it is going to be a shader style brush, and it is reminiscent of the Sonia G soft shader from the Sky series. So the head itself is a little bit more square and slightly smaller. Our width and density are pretty similar. So overall, it's a very similar shaped brush. I think it's a really great shader brush. As you all know, the Sonia G Soft Shader is one of my very favorite eyeshadow brushes. I have like 4 or 5 of them because I use one every day. Moving on, we have the T8, which I love this brush. This was actually a highly requested brush from Sonia G. And again, we have the same hair type and handles for all of these brushes. But this one in particular, this is kind of like a fluffy crease brush, but we've got a dense core, which allows you to really kind of target where you want things. And it's kind of this like arrow shape. So we have more of a pointed tip there, which allows you to get in there, you know, kind of get into the crease really well. But you also have that longer point, which allows you to kind of pinpoint and put a smaller portion of product there. This works really well for deeper shades. You can just tap a tiny bit on the tip, put that on your lid, and then you can use this fluffy brush to kind of blend and smooth the powder. So I think this is a great brush. The way that it feels, the density on this is incredible. This is my favorite of the three. Yeah, Sonia G recommends this one for all over lid and base application, blending, setting, even concealer. I think it's a really great brush. It's definitely very versatile. For me, I will probably focus this mostly on my eyes, but it also, you know, if you're looking for something for under the eye for powders or even concealers, this is something you can do with those brushes or with this T8. Now, as for the T9, this is going to be more like a pencil brush, but it's not really a traditional pencil brush. It's really like a very small detailed shader brush that's small enough that you can use as a pencil brush, but it's not as stiff or dense as a typical pencil brush. So this is great for the inner corner of the eye. It's great for detail work. You can definitely use this as a pencil brush if you want kind of that softer smudged look, but it's not going to be stiff enough to give you like a tight line with eyeshadow or anything. It's really great for use under the eye and in the inner corner, in my opinion. I personally really love the flexibility of this for use under the eye. That's probably my favorite application for this particular brush. So let's take a second and just take a look at these brushes up close, and then we'll move into some comparisons of the eyeshadow. So here are our handles. So we've got the Kiyaki Wood, we've got Matte Black Ferrule, we have them labeled here T7, plus we have the characters describing our brush. It is made in Japan. We've got our Sonia G logo. So this one here is our T7. This is our shader brush. And I just wanted to compare it to the soft shader here. You can see that our soft shader is a bit more rounded. Our width of the ferrules is pretty similar. This is going to be undyed Go Hair, whereas this is going to be dyed with the persimmon dye here. So you can still use these with liquids, creams, powders. I typically do tend to prefer to keep them just with powders, but I do sometimes use some with creams. You know, basically these are dyed over many washings. Like, I mean, we're talking hundreds here. Eventually you will notice like fading of the dye and so forth. So to keep mine as pristine as possible for as long as possible, because I do plan on passing things down to my children when they're older, you know, that's why I tend to stick with powders with these, but it's not necessary. You can use these with liquids, creams, or powders. Now here is our T8, and I mean, first of all, look at the shape of this head. I love this kind of angle here. And you can see that we have this nice dense core. I mean, look at this. I can easily just tap something softly here. When I'm blending it, you can see our core bristles in the center there. They have a bit more resistance. They're a little bit stiffer. We don't have a wide fluffy movement. The more you press, the more those outer hairs will kind of flare out and blend. So that makes this brush very versatile. And this one here is our T9. So you can see we kind of have that pencil shape, and you know, it kind of has a similar shape to the soft definer, which is here. You can see the soft definer is going to be a little bit bigger, and you can see we do have that softness with the soft definer, but you can see that this one has a little bit more give. It's a little bit more flexible. You know, we've got more bend here, so this is going to be a little bit softer. It's also overall just feels a little softer. This particular dye, I think, probably made it a little bit softer than the dyed SUQQU here, but they are both going to be dyed Go Hair brushes. And yeah, so those are the three new brushes from Sonia G. Again, thank you so much for gifting these. I think they're fantastic. Again, if I had to pick just one, it'd be the T8, but they're all fantastic. So let's go ahead and take a look at some comparisons. Again, this is our quad here in 504, and these are the swatches for this palette. Really beautiful, nice, soft colors, but we do have that depth of color in the last one. And then the first thing I wanted to take a look at here is this palette. This is one of the permanent line palettes from Cle de Peau. This is number 12, Purple Ocean Twilight. And you can see we have this nice, I'll put this one right up top. We have a nice soft purple here. This is going to be like a satin. You can see they are similar. We have more of a taupe here. This is going to be cooler in tone than the one in the holiday packaging. Our primer here is going to be a lighter, softer pink. Again, as I mentioned, it's a little bit more creamy. And then we have a deep amethyst purple. So you can see that we do have some similarities between the two palettes. They're not going to be the same, but you know, the purple is fairly similar. The taupe shade there has a similarity to it. This one's going to be deeper and cooler than that that of the lighter brown in the Holiday palette. I also want to take a look at number 1, Sand Dune. This is one of my favorite Cle de Peau palettes. This is kind of that neutral taupey palette. I wanted to see how the browns here kind of stacked up. So let me see this brown one again. So you can see that this is going to be a little bit cooler in tone. It doesn't have that reddish vibe that we get from there. This brown here is, let's put this side by side here. You can see that those are similar, but this one's actually, the one in Sand Dune is a little bit peachier. It's a little bit warmer in tone. And then our lighter shade here is just a little bit softer as well. It's more, it's got a little bit more of a golden peach hue in comparison to the one in the Holiday palette. I also want to take a look at one of my favorite SUQQU palettes. This is number 146. I want to kind of see how these shades kind of compared. We've got some beautiful purples here. This one here is light, it's shimmery, doesn't really go with it. Then this is kind of like a taupey purple. There is a little bit of purple in there. And then we have kind of a richer, more blue tone purple. You can see this is going to be a little bit more blue than the one in the Cle de Peau. And then we have a deeper plummy purple there. So not quite a match. This here is the SUQQU Nymph Eye Trio. I thought it would be worth looking at these 3 shades as well. And I'll just put them down here as well. You can see these brown shades are going to be warmer in tone. And then our purple here is going to be a little bit more blue and a little more dusty. It's almost like there's a touch more of like a brownish hue in the SUQQU. It's also going to be more shimmery. It is a shimmery shade. And then here's our new Cle de Peau. This is the Dior Daring Lilac. So I definitely wanted to see how these compare here. So let's go ahead. We're going to swatch this one right here. So you can see we started off with kind of a soft pearly lilac and ivory. This is the middle shade, which I thought might be close to this, but you can see it's a little bit lighter and they are similar. They've got some similar tones, but the Cle de Peau has just a little bit more blue in it. Then we have kind of this deeper taupey shade here, but again, there's a little bit of purple in here. So that doesn't really match up. And then we have a pink, which you can see a lot more. The pink from the primer shade doesn't really work. So I hope those were helpful. Again, we have our Cle de Peau here in the limited edition holiday packaging. This is number 504 right here. This is going to be Cle de Peau number 12, Purple Ocean Twilight, Cle de Peau Sand Dune. This is SUQQU 146, SUQQU Nymph, and Dior Daring Lilac. Let's go ahead and take a look at the lipstick. So obviously I have the lipstick on. You can see it is going to be a red shade. This is our packaging for the lipstick. And it's the same type of packaging that we have with the permanent line in terms of shape, size, components, and so forth. But we've got the limited edition picture on the front and back. The front and the back are the same, except on the one side we have our Cle de Peau logo, which we don't have on the other. You can put the caps on any which way, which personally something I really like. And you can see we've got this beautiful embossing on the bullet. This unfortunately is not refillable, so you cannot reuse the case for this. Let's take a look at the actual lipstick here. There's one swipe. And you can see this is kind of like a pinky red, but we actually have a bit of warmth in this too. It's almost like that pinky orange, you know, like that neon pinky orange as like an underlying note in red. In like a neutral red. So let's take a look at this on the lips. And I wanted to show you this kind of if you go with a softer, more blurred out look versus like a light application versus a heavier application, which is what I have on now. Now I have to say the red lipstick in the photo online, it does look like it's a cooler tone red. I was looking for more of a ruby red. This definitely has kind of this like I really feel like it's kind of like a neon pinkish orange hue in the base there. That's kind of, just, I don't know. I see that on my skin when I put it on. It definitely looks warmer. It is called Ruby Spark, and it is a limited edition shade. It's number 527. We have a 2-year shelf life. These are made in Japan, and we have 4 grams of product. Cle de Peau describes this as a radiant satin lipstick for a lustrous finish in a limited edition holiday shade. It's infused with a hybrid skincare makeup formula that harmonizes with skin tone for radiant, nourished lips and lasting color. As part of the Dreams Express collection, this holiday exclusive features shade Ruby Spark, a warm ruby red with a vibrant finish and sublime comfort. And I would agree, it definitely has kind of this warmth to it. Whereas for me, I was thinking like, like a cooler tone ruby, ruby red slippers and so forth. So it did surprise me that it does have some warmth in here. It's a really beautiful shade. It definitely has the radiance of something like ruby slippers, but it's got that warmth in there as well. Overall, I think it's a beautiful lipstick. I love the Cle de Peau lipstick formulas. They're some of my favorites. But with this particular collection, I think I would have preferred something just slightly cooler in tone to go with the eyeshadow palette. But that's a personal preference, and it's a beautiful shade regardless. So let's go ahead and take a look. I don't have too many comparisons for this, but I did want to kind of start off with this one here. This is number 28 that recently came out. This is going to be one of the matte lipsticks from Cle de Peau. This is one of their new shades. And you can see that this is going to be kind of, let me try to get a bigger swatch here. This is going to be a bit more of a cooler tone, more of a burgundy brick red here. So I think I was just expecting more of this shade, kind of with a ruby sparkly kind of finish. Then I thought this one here, 31 Sheer Chili from the Sicily. These are the Fido Rouge shines. This has that warmth to it. We have more red in the Cle de Peau. You can see there's more of a cooler tone red on top of this, but this is the shade that I am seeing like peek through on my lips, kind of that vibrant orangey red hue. So I can see that kind of coated with a cooler tone red. So same thing here. This is the Van Gogh red from Hung Van Gogh. It's almost like we have this topped with a cooler tone red. So you've got some sort of like orangey red, and this would be a matte option here if you're looking for something more matte. So I just wanted to see, this is a Sarah Creel in Red versus Wade. This is not like a match, but you can see this is gonna be a cooler tone red. So I just kind of wanted to kind of put this on top to see how similar those shades would be if you top it an orangey red with a cooler tone red. And I do feel like you kind of get that same type of vibe. So I hope this is helpful. And, I think if you have an orangey red and a cooler tone red, mixing them together might kind of give you a similar effect. So let's do a quick summary of everything we looked at. We started off with the Luminizing Face Enhancer in shade 110, which is a really stunning kind of peachy ivory highlighter. We'll put this one right here. Love the actual shade, love the formula. I think this is a great one. I think it is absolutely gorgeous. I love the fact that the packaging on that is refillable. Same thing with the eyeshadow palette. Again, we've got absolutely stunning packaging. I love how we have this 3D effect. The garden, the animals, the train, it's all gorgeous. And then I love the color story in here. It's a beautiful color story. The pink primer doesn't really do too much in my opinion, but the other shades, they're absolutely gorgeous. And those are going to be right here. And I think, it's just such a beautiful palette, beautiful color story, but it does have some similarities to particularly the Purple Ocean Twilight from the Permanent line. And then we took a look at the lipstick, which here it is. And this is a really beautiful red. It's hard to say that it's a neutral red because you can see that warmth and you can see that coolness kind of at the same time. So, in some lights it looks warm and in some lights it looks cool. So overall it's neutral, you know, in a sense, but it will look a little bit more warm or a little bit more cool depending on what else you have on and the lighting, your skin tone and so forth. So I think it's a really cool red. I like it, and cool, I mean like nice, but I think it's a really beautiful red, but I was hoping for something perhaps just a little bit cooler in tone to go with this eyeshadow palette, perhaps maybe a little bit more like what I see in the promo photo for it, where it just looks like a more blue based red with this like ruby shimmer to it. So I think it's a really pretty shade, but it's definitely a little bit warmer than I thought. Overall though, I love the entire collection. It's absolutely stunning, and I would pick up all three of these pieces again. The Sonia G brushes I think are fantastic. I was lucky enough to get these sent to me. I would purchase all three of these myself. My favorite is definitely going to be this T8, followed by the T7. And the T7 I do think is pretty similar to the Sonia G Soft Shader, which is one of my all-time favorite brushes. It's just slightly smaller, which I think is always a nice thing to have, which means it's also going to have a similarity to the Worker Pro. This softer definer brush for T9, which is kind of like a wider pencil brush in a way. It's very soft, it's very flexible, and I think it's something that's kind of been missing in the collection there, with this level of flexibility in this size. So I think it really fits a nice niche there. So overall, we've got some great products here today. I'm very happy with everything that I have here. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope this has been helpful, and I will see you very soon. So have a great day. And again, thanks for watching.